Dawn of the Mummy is a 1981 horror, Italian, American and Egyptian co-production, directed by Frank Agrama. The film jumps right into the action from the very first frame shown, an attack on a group of farmers by horse-riding servants who worship the Egyptian god of the sun. We then cut to seeing the followers of this almighty being carrying out a ritual, surrounded by gold. We then jump forward to present day where we catch up with a couple of tomb raiders on the search for all of the treasure buried away, hidden in the tomb. The search is led by a very obnoxious and money-driven American, who with the help of his two reluctant lackeys do bring about the curse of the mummy back to life, which they was warned about by a very distraught local woman crying and pleading to not open that tomb. We see the devastation caused by this curse on a couple of local travellers who come across the woman, who is now trying to warn them about the curse that has been lifted. After exploring the burial site, they all get attacked by someone or something that we don't see, which burns their faces, leaving them running around and screaming in pain. Then very abruptly again, we jump to a New York setting, which tells us that this film is in fact taking place in the early 80s, which becomes very apparent with some funky disco music playing over a montage of everyday New York life. Girls on roller skates and sharply dressed men commuting on the busy Manhattan streets, while the titles play over. We are transported to Egypt, where we finally meet our core cast of characters, a group of American models, photographers and stylists looking to exploit the beautiful landscape of Egypt for their own work. As you can see, that all takes place within the first 10 minutes, and you might be fooled thinking this is non-stop throughout. Again, I will try to keep it spoiler free, but I will talk about a few key scenes and aspects of the film a little later on. The overall story for Dawn of the Mummy is very linear and simple. We see the curse rise, our characters go from location to location trying to survive, some fun shenanigans along the way with some very stereotypical tropes of the horror genre throughout, partying, fooling around, being somewhere where you shouldn't be, and a lack of respect which is their downfall, but that doesn't mean the film is predictable. There are some twists and turns along the way that will keep you entertained and hopefully capture your attention. Let me talk about the director of the film, a man called Frank Agrama. He has a few other credits under his belt, but his other films include The Love Game 1968, Godfather's Friend 1972, and Queen Kong 1976. But sadly, Dawn of the Mummy was his last directing job, but he did have success later on producing a lot of other projects. But for the film itself, there are many elements that make the film work. It carries a very foreboding atmosphere throughout, which goes hand in hand with the beautiful locations of the film. The on-location shooting in Egypt beautifully sets it apart. Everything from the effects to the music and the overall execution of the story really do make for an enjoyable watch. It all really does help to make it shine within a plethora of other great, similar exploitation films from the same time. Talking about the music, which I've tried to sell as a real highlight for the film, was created by a guy called Shuki Levy, which he has carved out a very illustrious and memorable career, scoring many TV and film themes over the years, including Power Rangers, the Inspector Gadget franchise, Chappie, Dragon Ball Z, and Family Guy, just to name a few. He has worked on so much and really doesn't get the appreciation he deserves, and it's great to see his real start in the business was doing this film. And you can see straight away from listening to this soundtrack, either alone or with the film, that he was destined for great things, and has so much talent, because trust me, you'll be humming the main theme for days after. The main enemies are infected servants of the mummy that act as zombies and share a lot of the same characteristics as the zombies of the time, especially in Italian zombie films. A big factor of why they work in this is the location and direction. Filmed hiding in the shadows, rising from the ground and causing chaos and destruction wherever they pass. Also, it goes without saying the makeup on them, especially the feature zombies, is fantastic. Maurizio Trani, who has also worked on some of the greatest Italian films like Caligula, 1990 The Bronx Warriors, Cut and Run, and the infamous Troll 2, also a slew of Lucio Fulci films from his golden period. He does a tremendous job at creating horribly disfigured, blood-soaked, shambling undead beings. So I love the way Trani focuses on the eyes, or a singular eye showing, giving them much more personality and also adds a very creepy factor to it all. The movement from them is something right out of a Romero film. Very convincing. Slow zombies are the best zombies in my opinion. They do take a leaf out of Lenzi's Nightmare City's book by carrying and using weapons as well, which is a nice touch. Again, like I said before, a lot of it has to do with how they are shot on film. The shot where they rise from the dunes and that powerful theme is pounding over the top of it with the burning sun setting over Egypt is one of my all-time favourite scenes. Done so perfectly, very Fulci-esque, and really is the highlight of the film. Zombies have never been portrayed so beautiful before than that scene right there. Also, I have to talk about the star of the show, the Mummy. It's done really well too. Creepy, and the makeup enforces that. The performance is subtle but effective. The movement is great, and the way he is featured and handled throughout is good stuff too. Tall and lanky, he really does have an intimidating presence. And again, a lot of the performance is in the eyes, and that works perfectly at getting across the cold and threatening demeanour of the Mummy. A good, menacing adversary for our cast of heroes. They can't kill the Mummy with conventional weapons, like guns or even dynamite. Can't run away as he always turns up right in front of you. This thing is relentless. The gore and action set pieces are all enjoyable. Again, join with the music, they really are a standout for a film that is almost forgotten to time. I'm not going to rag on the acting, as I actually think the core cast all do a solid job. I think because the majority, if not all, are not dubbed and using their native language, that really does help. There's bucket loads of suspense, and the build-up leading to the last act of the film, which satisfies intensely on both the gore and exploitation level. Characters are very self-centered and egotistical, can be considered slow-paced, and does take a little too long for the eventual payoff. The last 20 minutes is really where all the juicy bits are. But again, the journey the film takes is always enjoyable in my opinion, with a lot to love. It's just a bit of a slow burn, but please stick with it. The confrontation between the zombies and the townspeople near the end is hugely entertaining. People running around everywhere. Zombies trying to catch out as many as they can whilst fleeing. The awesome score also plays over the top of all this carnage. Great feasting scenes filled with some lovely practical effects. Again, it's everything a gore and zombie fan wants, right? What's there not to love about this? It's no zombie flesh eaters or Dawn of the Dead, but for me personally I'd put it on the same level as films from this era like Burial Ground, Zombie Holocaust and Nightmare City. Again, another film where you will be wanting a sequel to this. Now there is a 2015 film called Dawn of the Mummy, and from first glance you might be fooled into thinking it's a remake of the 1981 film. The cover and the premise all sounds like a perfect fit. Also, a lot of news outlets have reported saying it's a remake by the guy who directed Battlefield Earth, but to my knowledge, and I have looked around, is that it's nothing to do with this film, which is a real shame. Imagine if it was. Bit of a budget and an Academy Award nominee helming the directing duties for it. But again, we can only hope that we eventually see a return for Dawn of the Mummy 1981, and especially after the last stinger of the film, perfectly setting up a sequel to it. Again, we can only hope that we do see a continuation of the story. A while back, the always talented artist Stephen Romano depicted what a sequel to Dawn of the Mummy may look like, and well, you can see for yourself how great it looks, especially with the tagged on subtitle, Wrath of the Undead. The film carries with a very foreboding atmosphere throughout, which really does go hand in hand with the beautiful locations of the film. Everything from the effects to the music, direction and the overall execution of the zombie-like creatures really do make for an enjoyable watch. Yes, the film does have some dead weight, especially in the middle section of the film, and it can take a while to kick in. Also, in my opinion, the biggest downfall of this is the characters. They're also obnoxious and unlikable. You end up rooting for the zombies in this to get their hands on the cast, so that is a problem, because again, if you can't root for your main cast of characters, then that's potentially the biggest problem of the film, as you have no one to relate to. The zombies and the mummy are the most over characters in this, but again, it's still highly enjoyable and a lot of fun, so stick with it, because it has a lot of heart. I was late to seeing this film, and again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but its main poster art is stunning, and that is my earliest memory, the UK Anchor Bay cover. And it fits in perfectly with so many great films coming out around the same period that all have that wonderful artwork in common. It's a dying trade, the poster art. Nowadays, 99% of poster arts are also generic and bland. Headshots of the main actors, either a very basic range of colours or a orange and teal colour scheme. Photoshopped to make everything look so fake and computer generated. Personally, I can't remember the last time I saw a poster for a newly released film where I thought, wow, I want to watch this movie and I want to own that poster. If anything, the poster art should be the first thing a consumer sees. To me, it's make or break. If I see a film with a bland, boring poster, it has no positive effect on me. It doesn't sell me on the title or make me wanting to watch it. And yeah, a lot of 70s and 80s films have artwork that is not accurate to what is shown in the movie. And there are so many cases of classic cult films showing some of the coolest looking monsters on the cover art, and then when you eventually see the film, it's the total opposite of what's on the front of the box. But I'm sure that even if the film was a disappointment overall, you will remember that cover art. Always colourful, eye-catching, and some really great illustrations trying to get you to watch this low-budget, no-named horror feast. Just fantastic advertising. Now I will go through some of the key releases from both the States and the UK for Dawn of the Mummy. First up is the uncut UK pre-cert, released in 1983 by Filmtown Video Space. With an appealing cover and a tagline, "They came from the dead to feast on the living," it fastly became a favourite with customers. Later, this was then seized by the police and placed in the Section 3 DPP list due to some of the graphic content, including an eye-gouging scene and a rather fake-looking hatchet to the head gag. In the States, it was released by Fawn EMI on small box VHS uncut. It was then cut by the BBFC in 1987 for a home video release by Apex Distribution Limited. In 2003, the film got released in the States under a label called Madison Entertainment Group Limited. I'm not familiar with this edition or company at all, but from the cover art alone, it doesn't look too promising. It has a horrendous early photoshopped artwork which really doesn't help to sell the film. Finally, it was released in 2003 by Anchor Bay UK, fully uncut, as the BBFC re-evaluated it and passed it for the first time in the UK with no cuts made. And that's the last time we have seen an official release of Dawn of the Mummy in the UK or the US. The print that was used for the Anchor Bay release has been said that it's the only available print of the film, and even though the DVD is perfectly watchable, it's still very dark and murky. Also, the audio is not too great, which is a real shame because I think if it had a better restoration and was released on Blu-ray, the film would benefit greatly from this. Having a new host of special features will be very welcoming by fans and new watchers alike. This film needs a Blu-ray in both the UK and the US. It's so obscure to begin with, and it really needs to be resurrected for a new format before it becomes another film lost to history. Here we have the 2003 Anchor Bay UK DVD release of Dawn of the Mummy. As you can see, it uses the original poster art, which again is one of my favourites. I talked about it at great lengths in the review. Classic tagline, "They came from the dead to feast on the living." Again, a great image of the mummy on the front, with the moon behind him, pyramid at the back with some zombies in front. If you're seeing this on the shelves, you're picking this up, no questions. Has the 18 rating certificate at the bottom and the Anchor Bay logo on the other side. Again, I would love to see Anchor Bay in the Blu-ray game. They're fan favourites with collectors. That image is just so iconic of the sailboat. It's very nostalgic, as I remember seeing a lot of DVDs with that at the time. I know they changed to Stars Entertainment, but again, it's not the same. Let's take a look at the back. Here we have the spine, the back. I'll put up a high quality image of it so you can pause to read. Special features include audio optional 5.1, Dolby Surround Sound 2.0, DTS 16:9 anamorphic, and 4.3 versions of the film. I watched the widescreen version of the film, not the 4.3. Audio commentary with director Frank Agrama, photo gallery, film notes, and scene selection. Again, quite basic special features, but it's nice to have the audio commentary on there. Again, this is why I keep saying this film needs a Blu-ray release. I would love to see updated and new special features on the film. Okay, let's take a look inside. Here we have the disc, official movie merchandise promotional insert by Anchor Bay. Some cool designs there. Nosferatu t-shirt. Halloween merchandise. And some Romero stuff at the bottom. Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead. All pretty cool. Then we have a insert for the film. Some good stills on the back from the movie. Again, another good still used for the inside. And it just has a scene selection from 1 to 18. So again, not a booklet, but it's better than nothing. So that is Dawn of the Mummy by Anchor Bay UK on DVD. Hope you enjoyed the video and thank you for watching.